Hello everyone, my name is Zaira and I will be your facilitator for the paper of Advanced Performance Management for September 2020 attempt. I hope you all are in good health and safe at your place. And definitely, it's a very disturbing time. So we all have to concentrate a lot on what we are supposed to do. And again, it's very difficult to sometimes to get your concentration towards these studies. But I urge you all to concentrate on the paper, right? It's the time which you got for your practicing your paper, because this time when you are in quarantine phase, definitely you got an opportunity, kind of blessing in disguise, that you have enough time to adjust yourself in P5 paper to cover as much syllabus as possible in this particular period of time, right? So try to take this time as an opportunity to improve your answers, to improve your skills, which is required for advanced performance management, right? But before starting this introductory video, let me give you my introduction, a brief introduction of mine, actually. I completed my ACCA back in 2007, and I have been in teaching profession for almost a decade. And in this whole time period, I have been specially associated with costing and management accounting paper. And along with costing and finance and management accounting paper, I have also taught economics at various courses, various courses of economics, basically at different professional qualifications like SEMA, CA. So, what is P5 basically? What is advanced performance management? Let me try to give you a flavor of what is the concept of advanced performance management. See, it's a very important paper, number one, and it's a very interesting paper. Those all of you who liked F5 are definitely going to like advanced performance management. The only issue with advanced performance management is that it requires a lot of analytical skills. I mean, you have to analyze a lot of different situations. For example, see, in F5, examiner treats you like a manager, right? Examiner will give you, examiner has taught you different tools. I mean, how you can calculate variance analysis, sales mix variance, market size variance, market share variance, decision making techniques, performance measurement techniques. So in that case, examiner actually treated you like a middle manager. So that paper facilitated you or introduced you a lot of different skills which are required for the manager, that how you will analyze the performance of company, how you will take what factors you should consider before taking any specific decision, or what are the costing methods available. What is in P5? P5 is basically a paper where you have to consider yourself to be promoted, right? And now you are an employee of an organization which is at a strategic level. So no one will ask you to do some operational activities in the sense, no one will ask you to calculate cost per unit of the product, and no one will ask you to calculate cost per unit under APC, and cost per unit under absorption costing, and life cycle cost per unit, or analysis, or do some calculate some ratio analysis and try to figure out what has been done in the company, and limiting factor and everything. So that is more that has been done already in F5, right? And since you are already done that part in F5, examiner will not ask that part again, right? And examiner is more interested in P5 in a situation like, for example, why a company should use activity based costing in a current scenario, or what are the risks associated with a company. I mean, we considered maximax and maximin and minimax regret, but along with that, examiner will merge sometimes SWOT analysis and sometimes pest analysis in order to analyze risk associated with the business. So that's how examiner actually construct the scenario, right? Similarly, I mean, you have to treat yourself at a strategic level, where people will come to you and tell you the problem of the company, and you have to give them solutions. justifying your answer, that why you think that this is relevant and why what the company is doing is irrelevant, right? So that is basically a very important tool which is required for the for advanced performance management, which you must consider. I mean, whenever someone asks you to justify something that needs to be connected with the mission statement, and you have to tell the examiner, the CEO, that why you are advising company to adopt certain strategy, right? So this is very brief introduction of advanced performance management, and let's begin with what we have done in performance management previously and what we are supposed to do in advanced performance management. What's done in performance management? See, this was the first section of performance management, right? PM or F5, whatever you call that. Initially, formally, it was F5. Costing methods are included in performance APM, right? We do have performance costing methods, but what is the difference is in F5 examiner was mostly interested in the calculation part. Calculation in the sense you were required to calculate cost per unit under activity-based costing, cost per unit under traditional costing method, and then you have to see what is the difference, and then you are supposed to tell the examiner what are the advantages, what are the disadvantages. See, very typical approach, right? But in advanced performance management, you have to actually prove whatever you have seen, whatever you studied in APM. Like in performance management or F5, what we discussed that activity-based costing helps the company to identify which product is profitable and which one is not, right? So now what we have to do, we have to actually analyze the situation. That, for example, we examiner will give us a situation that these are the three products of company, and you are supposed to advise the management what should do, how activity based management or activity based costing is can be applied. So we are supposed to tell the examiner that, look, these are the profitable product, these two are the profitable product, this is not not profitable product, right? Or for example, this is a profitable customer and this is not a profitable customer, or this is a value adding activity, this is a non value adding activity. If you remove this activity, that this will be an impact on cost per unit. If you continue with this activity, then this will be the effect on cost per unit. So we have to analyze the situation. We have to actually more, this is more towards a theoretical part, it's not something which is related to calculation part. So in APM, you will I mean, there are very few cases where examiner will ask you to calculate something, right? So you have to prove that why activity based management system or activity based costing, how these two concepts can help the organization in improving the performance, in value addition, in the creation of value added in value creation thing, right? Similarly, in target costing in PM, we were interested in the calculation of cost gap, which in majority cases, examiner used to ask that what is the cost gap in a situation and how we can reduce, what steps we can take in order to reduce the cost gap. So there were, reduction of idle time, and so some very typical answers were there. But now it examiner will connect this target costing with the goals or the mission statement of company. Like the mission statement of company, yeah, objective of company is to maximize shareholder wealth along with delighting the customers, right? So there are two stakeholders and you have to keep balance between both, and in that scenario you are supposed to apply target costing. Because you see, if there is a competitive market and we cannot increase selling prices, that what we can do is to go for the cost leadership, and for cost leadership, target costing is going to help us, right? So we have to justify the answer that why we think that target costing is relevant in this situation, and why we think that target costing will add value to the organization. You have to tell the examiner that this is basically a technique which will help the company to improve the situation. So that's very important. That's basically the key area. I mean, you may find certain situation where a company, for example, like in ABC, there can be two situations. One situation is that company is using ABC, and company and examiner asking that do you think that company should use ABC? So you are supposed to justify the usage of ABC. So that's basically more towards your analysis part, right? Life cycle costing is not included in advanced performance management, but this is included in this is something which is actually included in environmental management accounting. So examiner may ask you a question which is actually related to EMA, but that may include something which is target costing, because we have studied in F5 that there are four methods to apply environmental management accounting, and life cycle is among one of them. So life cycle costing has not been included as a solo topic, but that can be included. That come under some other label. So we will do life cycle costing theoretical part only, right? Throughput costing is not examined in APM, right? This is not the part of APM. Environmental management accounting. Now, what is EMA? We know environmental management accounting, and considering the current scenario, what kind of scenario we are facing in globally, environmental management accounting seems to be the most a very important area which examiner can ask. See, in F5 or performance measurement PM, um, the scope was limited because students were not quite aware of the issues in the company, or they just have studied F1. So you see, it was very difficult for student to apply that knowledge, right? But in APM, this can be connected with pest analysis, like what are the political issues, what are the environmental issues, what are the social issues, and is there any technological issue in that. EMA can be connected with life cycle costing, proper life cycle costing. It can be connected with other topics as well. Performance measurement can be included, like for example, if a company wants to save the environment, if a company mission statement is to maximize shareholder value and maximize shareholder wealth, along with delighting customer and providing some quality product to the customer which are environmental friendly, right? So that is a mission statement actually contain environmental issues. So we have to deal with environmental management accounting in that case. That can also become the part of performance management. So see, this is these all things. Everything is connected. Everything, whatever you are studying in P5 is connected, and you may see a question which will be a combination of two to three topics, right? Let's move ahead. Uh, Performance measurement. This is the most important topic of APM, because APM itself include uh, I, sorry, APM itself include the concept of performance measurement. So performance measurement is very important. Without performance measurement, do not attempt APM, because you can never pass this paper without covering this particular topic, and we will focus mainly on this. We will focus a lot on this topic, on this particular area. Balance scorecard we have covered in previous session. In PM building block model we have already covered. But what is the difference then with PM and APM in this topic? See, in performance measurement or F5, because whoever is studying right now APM, I think you guys have studied F5 when that was called F5, not PM. So what has been examined in F5 was how to analyze the performance of the company, right? You were supposed to analyze the situation. You were supposed to analyze the situation, what is happening what actually happened in the company, what were the non-financial indicators, whether company was able to attain certain targets or achieve non-financial indicators. There were one or two questions in which examiner also asked for students to develop some CSF and KPIs. But in APM, what is the difference? See, in APM, examiner will give you a mission statement, right? As I discussed in the previous slide, that examiner will give you a mission statement that look, company wants to maximize shareholder value along with delighting the customer and keeping creating an environmental friendly environment. So if examiner is giving you this mission statement, then you have to make sure that your critical success factors and key performance indicators are actually in line with the mission statement, right? And this is something which require a lot of I mean, in this situation, examiner usually is to ask the student to evaluate the situation. Evaluate means you have examiner will give you a situation, and examiner will give you a mission statement, and maybe possible that examiner will give you a certain balance scorecard which has been developed by the company, and examiner will ask you to evaluate the situation whether the CSF and KPI and the balance scorecard which has been developed by the company is I mean, you have to evaluate the situation about the balance scorecard. So you have to analyze CSF and KPIs, whether CSF and KPI are actually connected with the mission statement. See, there are two situations. In a situations which is very normal, that examiner will give you a mission statement and it asks you to evaluate, and you find some problems in CSF and KPI and you suggest those problems. You have to tell the examiner that why you think that CSF and KPIs are irrelevant, and why you think that certain things are relevant. So you see, you have to evaluate the whole scenario. There are very few cases in APM in the current, I mean, 4 to 5 or 6 years, that examiner asks students to analyze the performance of company. Analysis part is usually not asked by the students because you already completed that part in F5. You did that thing in F5. That means examiner know that you have necessary skills to analyze the situation, right? So examiner will not ask you again to analyze the situation because that will be the repeated thing. So examiner is now asking you as a strategic person, as someone who is at a strategic level, that look, these are the external factors, these are the internal issues, this is some company's mission statement. Now considering the external factor, right? Considering the external factor, considering the issues of company, considering the mission statement, you are supposed to evaluate a balanced scorecard, or you are supposed to prepare a balanced scorecard, right? So it's more broader concept actually. Then building block model, same thing. Building block model is completely same, no change in theory, but the application is different now, right? You have to apply the balanced scorecard, building block model in a situation. Performance pyramid is another topic. Look, we have already considered balanced scorecard and building block model in PM. This is another theory which, I mean, these are three theories which are actually related to the non-financial performance indicators. Performance pyramid is a new topic, so we will discuss it. So these three theories are the concept is a bit overlapping in these three theories, but examiner may ask you to apply the knowledge on the certain indicators. So you have to tell the examiner that why you think that these theories are relevant. Then responsibility centers. Responsibility centers have already been discussed in PM or F5. We know what are cost centers, revenue centers, profit centers, investment centers, residual income, return on investment. We know all these things, right? But what is extra here is economic value added, which is an advanced version of residual income. And along with that, there will be the transfer pricing issue, which has already been examined in PM. This transfer pricing issue is along with taxation and along with foreign exchange, right? So these are two extra topics which are included in transfer pricing. Along with that, you have to justify that, look, a company is using this transfer pricing, right? There was a question, I mean, in F5, in majority of the situation, we identify a transfer price or we have calculated profit and loss account if company's transfer pricing is cost plus or opportunity cost. We used to construct a profit and loss account, right? But now examiner will ask you that, look, this is the situation, and you are supposed to analyze the situation that what transfer price is relevant in this particular case. For example, there was a question in which a company was producing standard product and one division was producing a specialized product. So examiner actually asked that what transfer pricing is relevant in both cases. And you have to justify that, look, this is the situation and this transfer pricing is more relevant. So examiner is actually searching for the understanding level, basically. Then performance measurement in not-for-profit making organization. This is also a very important part. And this has not been examined in a manner where it, I mean, to the extent where it should have been examined in F5. And F5 there was, if I don't remember, one or there may be one or two questions which has been examined in F5 regarding performance measurement in not-for-profit making organization. But now in P5 or in APM, examiner is much interested here. So this is a very important part. You have to do a lot of effort here. Apparently, it seems that there are few things here, but CSF, KPIs, balance scorecard, and performance and everything, you will find a big chunk of your paper from this particular topic. So this is the most important topic for you, right? Then budgeting. Yes, budgeting is included, but rolling budget is included, zero-based budgeting is included. Zero-based budgeting, we know the theory of zero-based budgeting. We haven't seen the calculation part, right? We know what is zero-based budgeting. If you ask any student from F5 that what is zero-based budgeting, the first statement which he say is that zero-based budgeting means starting from 0 point, starting from scratch, right? But the calculation is missing. Why a company should use zero-based budgeting? What are the benefits of using zero-based budgeting? Considering a particular scenario, considering a specific scenario which is given in the question, right? So that's very important that you must be able to justify that look, this is the situation, this is the problem, and zero-based budgeting is the answer, and this is the reason why zero-based budgeting is the answer of this particular problem. Activity-based budgeting, that is also important. In F5, we haven't seen any question regarding activity-based budgeting, but now we will cover activity-based budgeting too. That is similar to activity-based costing, not a very technical concept. Beyond budgeting is a very different concept in APM. This is something which is completely new for performance measurement student, F5 student. This is something which they haven't seen in past, right? So again, budgeting is included in APM, but you people will not be required to prepare a budget. I mean, production budget, purchases budget, flexible budget, flex budget, rolling budget. There are very less chances to that examiner will ask you to prepare such budget. I mean, rolling budget can be a very simple idea of how you will increase or decrease or how you will compare it. But apart from that, there are very remote chances that examiner will actually ask you to prepare a budget. The only possibility is that the few plus minus will be required, but not a complete 20 mark calculation. That is obviously impossible thing for you guys. Decision making, performance measurement, risk and uncertainty is included. This is included along with pest analysis. We will see risk and uncertainty along with pest analysis. So these two topics are quite correlated with each other because we measure the external environment, because uncertainty is usually with the external environment. Internally too we can control things, but usually uncertainty is at the external environment. So pest analysis is usually uh, connected with risk and uncertainty. In this case, this topic cover risk decision rules, which we discussed, maximax, maximum, minimax, regret, and expected value. Everything is included. Pricing decision where marginal revenue is equals to marginal cost. That is included in P5. This topic has been examined in 2010 or maybe 11. It's been long time since this topic has not been examined, but Still, once, I mean, if it's a part of syllabus, we have to do this. One more thing I forgot to mention is learning curve. See, learning curve has not been examined in APM till now. I mean, there've been around 10 years, probably 10 or 11 years since APM has been introduced, but learning curve examiner never asked. So this is a topic which is not included but not excluded as well. So I mean, I will give you a quick recap of what the learning curve is, right? Variances, a big no. Variances is not the part of APM, but there was a question which has been asked in the P5 or APM, I mean, um, which in which examiner gave you a report which included controllable variances and uncontrollable variances. I mean, examiner didn't ask the students to calculate variance, but it gave controllable and uncontrollable part, and you are supposed to analyze that report, analyze the situation, and how management can see that report, right? So in that context, the concept is important. In that context, you should be able to recall what the variances are, but calculation is not included, right? Now, requirement in advanced performance management. This is something which is important. The most important thing, the most frequently thing examination verb which examiner asks is to evaluate. Evaluate means you have to evaluate a situation, that if you agree with certain situation, then you have to tell examiner why you think that this is fine. And if you disagree with certain situation, certain thing in the question, then you have to tell the examiner why you think that this situation is incorrect, and then you have to suggest that what you think could be done with the situation, right? For example, examiner asks you to evaluate the balance scorecard, and the company is measuring customer satisfaction by considering the growth, right? So you have to tell the examiner that, look, why you think that growth is relevant, or why you think the growth is irrelevant. And if you think that the growth factor is irrelevant for the customer success, that should not be used, then you have to suggest why. What do you think that what would be the benefit? I mean, what will be the what company should use? Because just telling the company that this is not something, I mean, this is the problem with the company balance scorecard, that will not add value, that will not add value to the company. So you have to suggest that, look, this is something which company should use, that will add value for the company. So this is something which is very important. And in I mean, approximately 60 to 65% questions, 60 to 65% requirement is actually related with the evaluate. Examiner will ask you to evaluate the situation. Everything examiner will ask you to evaluate. Evaluate the risk and uncertainty situation, evaluate the balance scorecard, evaluate the ABC, evaluate reporting, performance management report. That's very common. Recommendation is required. Recommendation along with justification. You are not only supposed to recommend, you have to justify your recommendation, that these are the reasons, that's why we are recommending something, and you have to analyze certain situation, certain thing which company is doing. You may ask to analyze that current situation, that what actually happened and why something has happened, right? Then, now, this is a new knowledge. There are a lot of other things too. This is basically a diagram which I took from P5 report. The new knowledge, I mean, you know what is SWOT analysis, people know Porter model, people know what is BCG, McKinney's, Pest, BPR. These things people know, right? Six Sigma, I'm not sure if it's included in SBL or not, but we will discuss these few areas. These are new topics which we will discuss, and the new skills which you are supposed to know is evaluation, recommendation, respond, justify, advice. See, these are new examination work which you must understand before writing the answer, right? All right. So, what is the plan for September 2020? In the first week, we will cover activity-based costing and activity-based management. This is what we will cover in the first week of our syllabus, first week of advanced performance management. Along with we discuss target costing and risk and uncertainty. Why we are going to discuss these three areas? Because I consider that these three areas are a very very light area or very simple area of APM, and and this is something which you already have been studied in past. So it's easier for student to grab to understand these concepts in APM. So that's why I always start with a very light, very simple topics, right? So this is something which we will cover in the first phase, first week of APM. In the second and third weeks are going to be crucial for you guys, because in the second and third week we will discuss performance management, and performance measurement is definitely, as I said, that this is the key topic of APM. Without performance management you cannot pass APM paper, right? We have already discussed a balance scorecard, building block model in F5 paper. There is one more thing in P5, which is performance pyramid. Performance pyramid has not been done in F5, that we will discuss in P5, right? Then there is a then pest analysis and SWOT analysis. This has already been done in your previous P3 paper, but in this case, examiner will connect these simple terms, these simple models along with the performance measurement. Like for example, pest analysis we have already seen in P3 paper, right? In APM paper, what examiner will ask you, examiner will say that try to identify political, economical, social and technological issues in the scenario, and suggest some CSF and KPIs, especially suggest some KPIs how you are going to measure that. So that's how examiner can connect the model with the performance measurement system. Then definitely for performance measurement, fiscal and monetary policy, sometimes examiner connected with the performance measurement model. Human resource management is very important, bonuses, payments and share based payments and everything. So that is really very important here. So that usually examiner connect with performance measurement. And this is something which examiner always ask in 50 marks paper. 50 marks first question, which is 50 marks question, is usually from performance measurement. And how can examiner can construct a 50 marks question? Obviously complete 50 marks cannot be examined through these three models. So examiner sometimes associates, sometimes link pest analysis, sometimes it like SWOT analysis or human resource problem or Porter five forces model or stakeholder mapping, BCG, Porter value chain analysis. This is very frequently asked by the examiner. Generic strategies model. So these are some things which usually examiner connect with performance measurement. So that's how examiner usually construct a 50 marks a question, right? The first 50 marks question. And that is a very challenging question, to be very honest, because you have to connect everything with the scenario and with the mission statement. Let me tell you one important thing here. Students are sometimes, whenever I talk with the students, majority students says that, look, that ma'am, I am doing advanced performance management because it's very similar to P3. Yes, that is very similar to P3, but that's basically the problem, because the students attempt APM as they were attempting P3. Examiner is not asking you P3 paper. Examiner has not given you a P3 paper. Examiner has given you a P5 paper. So you have to answer, you have to construct your answer what uh, according to what is requirement in the question, and requirement in the question is usually connected with the performance measurement part. So you have to be very careful to you should be able to distinguish between what is in the P3 paper and what is in APM paper, and or that can be done by using the past question of advanced performance management, right? So all these things are here till here. The mostly things you have already seen in P3 paper. There is a question usually student ask me whether we will revise all these topics or not. Yes, we will revise these topics. My sequence is that first I will give you an introduction video of all these topics. For example, you know what is a stakeholder mapping, you know what is BCG model, BCG matrix. I know that you guys know this. You guys have the knowledge of all these models. That's why you are attempting P5, because you are done with these papers. But I will give you I will give you lectures of all these, recorded lectures of all these topics, because we will connect these topics with APM. So that's important. Then problem in performance measurement system, benchmarking, corporate failure. Corporate failure is something which you guys haven't studied in the previous attempt. Corporate failure examiner included in P5 back in 2007 or 2008, when financial crisis actually occurred. And so that was a time where P5 Slaber's examiner was ACC was constructing P5 paper. So that's the time when examiner actually took interest in corporate failure. The examiner actually started corporate. The examiner gave it an importance. So that's why corporate failure has been included here. Then in the next week, fourth week of our syllabus, we will start with responsibility centers. This is already done in F5, but there are few areas which has not been covered in F5. The most important area is economic value added and transfer pricing. Transfer pricing is along with taxation. I mean, transfer pricing, theory of transfer pricing, and taxation part along with transfer pricing. That is something new in P5. And then performance measurement in not-for-profit making organization. Again, this is at a good level in P5. So we'll cover all these areas in the fourth week of our advanced performance management. Then in the fifth week, we will cover quality, Kaizen costing, budgeting, EMA, and value-based management system, right? But again, see, these things are really very important, and quality chapter is usually connected with performance measurement. So one part of quality we will cover with performance measurement, and one part of quality we will cover in the fifth week. So we will do it later. I will when we will start, we will discuss all these things, right? And then in the next week, sixth week, we will do the last part of information system, league table, big data analysis, information system, and everything. So that will be again a very these are very simple topics of APM. So it will not take much time, but it's still it's examinable. Examiner used to examine this information system requirement so many times, and mostly in part C and part D, and that is of 6 to 10 marks usually. So this is a very important part of APM. So we will do it in at last, and then we will, and then I've not made any slide for seventh week, but in seventh week we will deal with anything which has not been done in P5. For example, there can be some theoretical part, very simple theoretical part, which is in the book and which has not been covered in past paper till now. So we will cover that in the last week of our syllabus. Then what we will do after course completion, every Monday we will have a live session from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. Pakistani Standard Time. So that in case, sorry, so that in case you have any queries, any issues regarding P5, you can ask me, right? So we'll do a live session in that at that point. And in case someone, if in case any one of you have any issues regarding the timing, because 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. is not suitable for everyone, for every student. So what we can do, we can make up a WhatsApp group, or some social media group, and then I will ask you, all of you, to connect with me, and you can send questions to me, you can send your answer script to me, and I will try to check it, so that I can identify the mistakes which you have been which in case you attempted and you flunked. So I will try to figure out what is the problem with your paper. Paper pattern, it's very simple, it's very common. 50 mark compulsory question, 25 marks section B, consisting of two questions with 25 marks each. Important thing is that this part. people, you see, this is 80 to 20% ratio of theory of calculation, theory 80%, calculation 20%. But I'm with the fact that there are more chances that theory will be 90% and calculation will be just 10%, because mostly examiner is asking you to evaluate or analyze or recommend or justify. There are very few requirements in which examiner will actually ask you to calculate something. So it's very uncommon in APM, right? Now, this is a new thing, which is now there's a issue of embedded requirement, which is now the case of P5. Embedded requirement means examiner, like, this is basically a scenario where this is how examiner used to ask from student before September 2019, right? That means this phase has been passed, right? We are in 2020, right? The point which I'm highlighting is this is something which you can see in the past examination paper, right? Whatever question we will do in our studies, in our lectures in the coming period, mostly in most questions you will find these requirements, right? Evaluate the accuracy of EVA calculation and assumptions in appendix 1 and advise. Evaluate and advise the CEO on your results, providing calculations which are necessary. So you have to calculate, you have to evaluate, you have to advise. There are three things which you have to do, right? An examiner told you that what you have to do. Then for each three CSF and KPI, briefly explain what weakness of KPI associated with C, and then justify the alternate KPI. This is something which you have to do given in the requirement, available in the requirement. That's what you have to do, right? Then explain the three improvement projects, right, of CSF and IC, and you assess the impact of the proposed new information system on the three improvement projects, right? So examiner actually gave you what examiner wants. But what was the issue? What was the problem with this requirement is when examiner asks you to advise the CEO. So student usually forget while writing the answer. Student usually used to forget what was the requirement of CEO. So what he do? He usually write his own answer. Right? This is the answer. So that was the problem because students were not actually addressing the issue. Students were writing what they want to write. So that was the issue which examiner has highlighted in a lot of examination reports, but if students were not serious with that. Students didn't pay any attention to that. So examiner said, okay, fine. Now let's change the requirement. Now the requirements are not this. Requirements are like this. This is the embedded requirements from September 2019 and onward. This is the requirement of same question. But I mean, iron chicken is the same question, and iron chicken was the previous question. Iron chicken, the same question. But now, what is the requirement? If the examiner wants to ask the same question now, how he will do? The use of write a report CEO and respond to her instruction. And where are the instructions? Instructions are given in the question. You have to connect it with the question. You have to go back to the question, right? In following areas, use of economic value added, KPIs, improvements, and information system. Simple requirement. So you have to connect and you don't know what to do with this requirement. So definitely automatically you will go to the question and respond to the CEO, right? So that's basically something which is now different, which is not the part of APM in previous paper and which is now has been included, right? So this is a different thing, right? And then again, professional marks will be awarded for the style, structure, format, and discussion of your answer. So these are the extra marks, right? Now, and sorry, I completed my discussion, but this is something which was actually the part of the question, right? So this was the requirement, right? The use of economic value added as a KPI. You have to respond to her instruction. And what are her instructions? This was extract from the question. The CEO wants your views on the use of EAV. We don't know what is EAV, just forget about it. As a KPI at IC, you have been supplied with the current EVA calculation in Appendix 1, but there is some doubt about whether the junior management accountant who has done this work was sufficiently trained in this method. Therefore, the CEO require you. Now, what does CEO wants you to evaluate? its accuracy and assumptions from part of the calculation, and along with that, advise her on your results, providing calculations as needed. So you have to evaluate and advise her, providing the calculations which are required. So whatever the requirement CEO wants is actually given in the question, and in requirement you will not find such instructions. That's the difference now. All right. I don't want to share this, but unfortunately I have to. This is the passing ratio of advanced performance management, right? And unfortunately, this is 33%, 35%, 29%. And students actually want to know that what's wrong with the answers, why students are unable to pass. Because there is a controversial theory that people say that ACCA doesn't want to pass. No, this is not the case. This is a rubbish thing. This is a rubbish excuse. ACCA wants to pass you, but the problem is that we are not writing in the proper answer which can earn those marks. So that's something wrong with here. Now let me tell you an example. Let me tell you why students fail. That's most important thing, why students fail. Because if I know why I'm failing, what are the reason behind the failure, I will correct those things and I will pass the paper, right? I will come in this category of this minority category, which is 33, 31, 33, 32. See, there are more passing now. As you can see that initially it was somewhere around 29, now it's 33. You should be happy in this case. Now, what is the best approach to exam? This is something which we always will cover in the later phase as well, but what's written in the red is the most important thing, right? First of all, you have to cover the whole syllabus, and then you have to prepare to apply the knowledge which you have gained in the business scenario, right? Why it's important to cover whole syllabus? See, um, for example, we know what is CSF and we know what is critical success factor and key performance indicator. There was a question which has been examined by ACC examiner, which asked the students to identify that what can be the problems in developing, in selecting those CSF and KPIs, or interpreting those CSF and KPIs. So if so, you must know that what are the issues, what can be the issues in CSF and KPIs, and that is a kind of bookish knowledge. But again, saying that, I'm not asking you to write the bookish knowledge. No, I am telling you that these are the reasons you have to apply that. For example, there are two key stakeholders. There is a shareholder, that is a key stakeholder, and there are customers, right? Customer wants low cost product, shareholder wants high profits, right? So you have to keep a balance. It's very difficult for the company to identify which performance indicator should select, because there is a conflict, there is a natural conflict. So prioritization can be an issue. So you have to identify those issues, and for the identification, you must have bookish knowledge. So I'm not saying that bookish knowledge is not important. You have to read the book, but you have to apply that knowledge in the scenario. So you must know that what thing is actually applicable in this particular scenario. That's important thing. Create a coherent performance framework. This is important, as I said in previous slide, that you have to connect the mission statement with the CSF and KPI, or you have to connect what the company desire is, what company actually want, with the current situation, with whatever you are whatever you are suggesting, or whatever your suggestion is. You have to connect it, right? You have to build a very logical framework. Then, evaluating performance management report. This is a very common requirement, and if you want to, and see why I included this here, because if you there was a question, let me give you the reason of including this. There was an there was a question examined in past, which in which examiner asked you, that was a Kolmok question. It's a very famous question, in which examiner asked students to identify the performance measurement report. performance measurement report. Now, what is the issue? See, if you are at a strategic level and you want to decide about something, then you should know that what information is actually required for you to decide about something. And if I'm giving you financial results, and if I'm not giving you the non-financial performance indicator, then probably I'm missing something, right? If I'm giving you wrong performance indicators, then I'm missing something. So you have to analyze a report, and you have to tell the examiner that these things have been done correctly and this is something wrong with this report. I mean, if I want to decide about something, if I want to analyze something, if I want to analyze the performance, then I should be, so company should give me these three things, and company should not give me, I don't want these three or four things. So that is the evaluation of performance management report, and this is very common in P5, right? Then again, important thing, create information from data and read the answer and answer the question which is required. So we will discuss this in the next few slides. What is in red, we will discuss it later. Add value to the organization with comments relevant to the issues at hand. That's something which I've already discussed, that you have to tell the management that something which is valuable for the management, something which is actually adding value to the organization. You cannot tell examiner something which you think that okay fine, this is a bookish knowledge, but that is not relevant to the situation. That's irrelevant. It will not earn a single mark. Critical analysis, there are certain situations which examiner asks you to analyze, critically analyze a situation. And what people do, what students do is they highly negatively analyze the situation, that company is doing this thing wrong, company is doing that thing wrong. See, you have to keep a balanced approach. You cannot, I mean, you have to, first of all, you have to justify that why you are saying that this is wrong, right? And then you have to balance that approach, that this is something, this the company can add this thing in order to counter these issues, right? So again, you have to give a valuable thing. Time management is very important. We all know that, because you see, performance management paper APM. What I know, I've also discussed this in FM students too. Let's see, there are certain questions which are honey trap. Honey trap is a kind of question in which you want to write a lot of things. You have a lot of things in your mind to write in the paper, but you have to keep in mind that time is something which you have to manage. You have to write according to the marks. You cannot write everything. So in that case, if you spend around 2 hours in completing 50-mark question, which is usually a very lengthy requirement, very lengthy question, then probably you will have just 1 hour for the remaining 50 marks, and that's something which is not good. That's something which you have to take care of, because see, then you will randomly answer that question. You will not have enough time to plan that answer, and that's something which can impact your result. And getting maximum marks, we will see this in the next slide. Now, what do you mean by maximum marks? Maximum marks means there are some easy marks in the question. Let's see the next slide for this. Now, this is related to this. You can relate this, what we are going to do with a lot of these things which we have already discussed. This is an extract from December 2017 attempt. CEO, what the requirement of CEO was. What CEO want. He said, I don't want to know how to improve the actual performance of the business. That is the job of operational managers. Nor nor do I just want a list of suggested performance measures. Instead, what she wants, I need to know why. This why is very important here. I will tell you why. I need to know why these performance measures will help to improve the performance of the company, right? And this is the requirement. You have to advise the CEO on how the use of balanced scorecard can improve the performance management system. Now, what examiner wants actually from you is to analyze why you think balanced scorecard system is important, right? And in fact, the CEO also wants you to do the same thing. And how the marking scheme has been developed, see, this is very important. This is very important because marks are something which you have to achieve in order to pass the paper. And what I've seen in past is people don't read marking scheme. That's a blunder. That's not something done by the student. They must know what is what I mean, which criterias actually what they should write in order to earn marks. That's very important, right? 1 mark per relevant point. Simple. You write 1 mark, you write 1 point, and you will gain 1 mark. No marks for a list of new majors without justifying why they would benefit soup. And why examiner is saying this? Because this is embedded, this is included in this requirement of CEO, that she doesn't want a list of suggested performance indicators unless and until there is a justification. You have to justify your answer. And that's something which examiner is saying, that look, if you list down some performance measurement, you will not earn any mark. You will not earn a single mark. And then 1 mark for generic description of balance scorecard without clear reference to the scenario. See, still examiner is giving you a soft corner. He's saying that look, if you I mean general analysis, you do a general analysis of balance scorecard, still you will get few marks, but obviously not 100% marks, right? So with along with the general analysis, you have to apply the scenario, and this is something which is very important while writing the answer, that you must know what to write. That's why I always ask students to plan the answer. After reading the question, think what is requirement, r- try to focus on the requirement of the examiner, and then write the answer. Because after writing the answer, if you analyze that, oh my god, what I did, then you lost that time. You will not get that time back. So before writing the answer, before starting the answer, try to develop a mark, develop a way to write a pattern, a scheme, that what you are supposed to write in the current in this answer. That's really very important. And this is the marking scheme, and let me show you what the examiner comments are. This is from the official examiner's report. I haven't written that. Explaining that the company could use EVA. We don't know what is EVA. I'm sorry for that, but this is basically the in the comment. Explaining that company could use AVA as a measure under the financial perspective provide little evidence that candidate understands how the balance scorecard is beneficial, how why it's beneficial for the balance for the company. However, to score well, a candidate could explain you need, as I said, you have to justify everything. Could explain that approach aims to ensure long-term success of the company. So that's why EVA is more relevant, and that's why ROCE is not relevant. So just telling the examiner that this is relevant. Why? Are you making a guess? So if you are just telling the examiner that EVA is relevant, that examiner can, he usually understand that this can be a guess. This can be just a mere guess that, look, this can be important. Maybe candidate can have a jackpot. So you have to justify why you think it's relevant. There's another marking scheme. In this scheme, I just want to realize you guys that, see, marking scheme is a break. There is a breakup, right? There's a breakup of 1 mark, 2 mark, usually 1 point earned 1 mark. So this is something which you must take care, that I haven't written the question requirement, but see, this is important to understand. I mean, it's my advice. We cannot do after every question, but this is my advice to I mean, after writing the question, try to see what you have written, and try to exam match with the examiner marking scheme. That will help you to identify how many marks you have actually earned. How to earn professional marks? I think this is something which you guys know. uh, Use an appropriate format, logical structure, suitable headings, and clear. I mean, you should be clear what you are writing. There should be no haphazard thing. That's important. Then the second thing which I said, ask the question, ask. This is something which examiner actually, I've attended an examination conference back in 2013 or 14. in which we got a chance to chat with the examiner. And the first thing which he said, I asked him why students fail. So the first thing which he told me was that whatever student write in the paper is actually, whatever student write in the paper is actually correct, but this is not something which is required from them. I mean, as I said, there was a question in back which had been asked in ACCA paper, which asked a student to evaluate performance measurement report, evaluate a report. And what examiner said that in that particular question, majority student actually analyze the performance of the company. So what he said that look, they made a perfect analysis. Analysis was not wrong. Analysis was right. They actually told the company that look, sales went up and this can be the reason. Cost of goods sold was high. This can be the reason. Not training. Everything they comment. But that was right. That they were perfectly right. But that was not something which is required from them. The examiner wants them to analyze the report. The examiner wants them to analyze report. They didn't make the analysis of report. They actually analyze the performance. That was not required. So, see, if I'm the candidate, what I will come out of the examination hall and I will say that I did a perfect paper, right? I completely explored the paper so you see, I wrote this and that and blah 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 blah. But actually, the problem is whatever I've written is incorrect, and actually, I don't know what I wrote is incorrect. That's also a problem. So this is official statement. There has been a tendency by candidates to write good answers to the question that they wish had been asked, but the examiner rather than but by the asked by the examiner rather than the actually set in the exam. This approach scores little, if no mark credit. Then create information from data. This is another thing which is important. See, there are a lot of questions which you will find in P5 which will give you the calculation part, in which examiner will give you the calculation part, and you have to analyze the situation. For example, this is a question of ABC which has been asked in the paper. ABM, sorry, not ABC exactly, ABM, which has been asked in the paper. And in this question, examiner actually gave you that if company switches from traditional absorption to ABC, this is the result. So examiner gave you the result, and that makes sense. Why? Because if you are at a strategic level, you will not calculate what is the cost of ABC. Someone will give you the result, and you will see that result, and you have to analyze the situation. So you have to create information from this data. From this data, you have to analyze the information, you have to extract the information that what is wrong and what is right. See, that's important. And obviously, there was a 25 mark questions. We are not doing the questions, but I'm just telling you that in F5 we did all these calculations. In P5, examiner did all these calculations, and we are supposed to comment over it. That's the problem. That's something which we say that you have to create information from data.
So now, what is this? See, there are a few regions where ACCA has already introduced computer-based paper, computer-based examination for P5 paper, for APM paper. So if you are in that region, you may refer to these resources. The first one is the way examiner is going to examine your paper, right? And the second link is basically related to the area where from where exam which areas examiner, I mean in which regions examiner is going to examine computer based paper, right? So you may go through these two links in order to identify whether you are eligible for computer based paper or not. This is basically the task of first week, which we will start. Whenever we will start our syllabus, we will do these things in the first week. For example, I will give you an introduction of activity based costing. You have to watch that video. Then there are some notes involved of ABC and ABM. and then I will provide you links of these two videos so that you can watch these two videos, and then you can try to attempt this paper at your own, right? And I urge you, whenever you start any new question from past paper, try to do it within the specific time period. For example, if it's a 25 marks paper, 25 marks question, then try to do it in within 40 minutes, because you will see and you are seeing a new scenario based question, right? As you will see in your as you will see in your examination center, right? So you should be able to practice your paper within given specified time period, because that is a basic issue with the student. There are a lot of students who struggle in the paper, and they are unable to cover complete paper, either cover complete paper, or they what they will do is that they spend so much time in the first question that they end up by covering the whole first question in 2 hours, or maybe 1 hour and 45 minutes. So you will be left with 1 hour or 1 hour and 15 minutes for the last two questions, and that will be really a tough task for you guys to complete last two question within 1 hour or 1 hour and 10 or to 15 minutes. So you have to practice all questions under examination conditions, under specific time period. Put an alarm and practice the paper, so that whenever alarm ring, you can identify that how much you actually covered in that particular time period. And if you are unable to cover 75 80 to 85% of your question requirement within a specific time period, that means you need improvement. Because when you will go to the examination room, there will be a lot of pressure on you, because scenario will be different, things can be different, so you have to keep your mind under control. And for that, you have to practice as much papers as possible, right? So try to attempt this question within the specific time period, maximum 35 to 40 minutes, not more than that. Then we will start with target costing. I will give you notes, I will give you links of these videos. You have to watch those videos and try to attempt those questions. And then we will do risk and uncertainty part. Risk and uncertainty part, first link is actually related to the explanation part, that recall part, you can say refreshing video, that what you have discussed in F5. And then this is a paper which examiner has asked in previous attempt. So you will watch three videos, and you can try to attempt two questions at your own, right? So this is basically the first task of you for APM paper, right? Thank you for watching this video. Have a nice day. Allah Hafiz.